This is the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, where I strategize with business owners on how to grow and scale their businesses to hit their income goals. This is episode 154 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today, I am speaking with Ty Kilgore of Everything Digital Marketing, as well as he is married to Cami Kilgore, who runs Everything Food Conference and is the recent new owner of Snap Conference. Ty is going to be talking to us about how to improve SEO, and this is a conversation that you are not going to want to miss. I even had one of those aha moments in the middle of our discussion, and you can hear it towards the end of the interview where I kind of came back with a secondary question and I kind of had that aha moment right on air. I want you guys to make sure that you also hop over to the show notes so that you make sure that you grab the freebie that Ty has put together for you all. It's a great checklist that's going to walk you through how to make sure to set up a blog post that is set up for SEO purposes and is going to help you rank. This is an episode that you're definitely going to want to listen to more than once. All right, let's dive in. All right, I am here with Ty Kilgore. Ty, how are you? I'm so excited to have you onto the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, Jenny. Thank you for having me. I am super elated to be here.
Excellent. I would love for you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself as well as your business, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So I own a business called Everything Digital Marketing, and many people know my wife in this industry. She has a conference. It's called Everything Food Conference. So she and I have started that for 5 years, and about a year and a half ago, I had a 9-to-5 job that I was working in a career in the digital marketing space. And after one of our Everything Food conferences, we had an opportunity to send out a post-conference survey. And one of the things that we ask is what is the information that you as attendees would like to know more about? And we had over 200 people fill out that survey. And I think 2 people did not put they want to know more about SEO. And so that became a opportunity for us. And because of my background in the SEO industry in the world. So I have over 12 years of experience doing this. So 6 of those years were in the agency side of things. So I was working on a variety of different clients who would come across the agency door. And then also 6 years of in-house roles. And so I was also able to work specifically for a particular company, improving their SEO and their digital marketing. And so I learned really quickly that SEO is where I got my foundation, but SEO is just one part of the ecosystem that is digital marketing. And so I quickly found that they all work together. And when they all work together really well and really beautiful, it increases and improves the areas that you're striving to improve. And so I left my day job and started Everything Digital Marketing. And so it's been going for about a year and a half, and it's been awesome. It's been a lot of fun. Working for ourselves is definitely something we highly recommend. So it's been great for us.
Absolutely. No, it is so exciting because I knew you when you were still at the agency, because I knew Cami then when she first had started Everything Food. And to see that, I think it's so unique, the advantage that you have, because you were doing SEO in a totally, as an agency, whereas many of us start not that way. We all start kind of with the blog and trying to figure out what is SEO and how can we improve it. So I love the fact that you had that previous experience.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that is essentially where I learned how to do the things I know now how to do. So yeah, I was paid I want to increase for this ranking. And so I was in charge of a team and used that team to help fulfill that assignment. And so it was great because I've worked on so many different industries and learned the tricks and the trades, and not just in the food blogging world, but in the world that is outside. And so one of the things I love to do is incorporate things that I've learned from all of those different industries and say, I wonder if that would work here. And so it's fun for me to do it. That's why I love doing it, because it's such a strategic back and forth game with Google and figuring out what will work and what won't. And it's a game that I figured out and learned and love. So.
I love it. So the date of this recording, we're at like mid-November. It's like the week before Thanksgiving. When this comes out, it'll be later in December. We've just gone through something in the month of October, towards the end of October, I want to say, with Google, since you brought it up. You have a t-shirt that has a mantra on it that I just love. And I think that it's really relevant to the algorithm changes that we see not only on Google, but also across social media. Do you mind sharing what that t-shirt says?
Yeah, sure. So the t-shirt you're referencing says, stay calm and level up. And one of the reasons why is because after this algorithm update hit, you should have seen my inbox, Jenny. I mean, it was like, Ty, I'm freaking out. Like, oh my goodness, so here's everything that's happened. I've lost this amount of traffic. What am I supposed to do? I get it. Like, I get it. Like I said, this is year 5 of Everything Food. So I get when an algorithm update hits, it declines your traffic, especially right before Thanksgiving. Like, I understand the complexity of the problem. And so many food bloggers are in a situation where 10 to 15 of their posts that they have on their site bring in 90% of their organic traffic. So if one of those 10 to 15 posts declines in rankings, it's a significant drop, especially if it's for a term that gets a high amount of search volume. So you are in a situation where you're panicked because you don't have what you once had, and the RPMs and the traffic are coming to a peak, and you make a lot of money. And so I get it. I understand the pain. And so that's why not only before that, I mean, the shirt was created long before this algorithm update happened, because I've gone through algorithm updates. I've had to explain what algorithm updates meant to my clients and also internally. And this isn't my first time experiencing an algorithm update. That's one of the things Google does. Their mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. People get upset when they try to do their mission. And so I try to share that Google is going to change things. They're going to create various aspects of their search engine result pages that's going to change the game. I mean, it wasn't even a couple of years ago that they introduced featured snippets and position 0 and different areas of that now is common vocabulary. But back then it was, oh my gosh, what has Google done? They're making it so that people don't even have to click through my article to get the information they want. Well, that's their mission, right? They're trying to get people answers to questions. And so, yeah, my shirt says stay calm, because just because you were infected either positively or negatively, we actually had a lot of people receive increased rankings. But obviously, they're not the ones emailing, but they do tell us later. But just to say that position that you're in is not the position that you are now permanently assigned to. I have very much seen and will continue to see people who have declined in rankings be able to get those rankings back. So it is a opportunity for us to figure out what to do next. And that's how I view it. It's not a panic. It's not a freak out. My wife, before she created Everything Food Conference, she was a nurse. And so she says, one of the things that you want is that if you're in a code situation in a hospital, you don't want your nurse in the corner freaking out and yelling, right? She says, you want somebody that can take action and figure out what the problem is and stop the bleeding and figure out where the pain receptors are and give medication for the pain. So you have to attack the problem. Don't just complain about the problem, right? And so find solutions. Don't just simply, now that this has happened, what's my game plan? What am I going to do? How am I going to get it back? So that mentality, not only have we applied to Everything Food Conference, but also to Google algorithms. So anyways.
Yes. No, and I think that it's so important because, like you said, it's not that Google hates you or that they're trying to hurt people and their families and the income that we make. It's they're trying to make it a better service to the people that may not necessarily have a blog or an online business. So I think that it's important that we really start to think about, okay, put ourselves in that audience shoes. So when it comes to SEO, so I think for me, going to conferences, I always saw SEO on the agenda.
Yeah.
And I would always think, why do I need this? Why is it important? And I think I did that head in the sand. And now, of course, I know that it's very important. But what would you say is like the number one reason why it is important?
Most people, when they get into the food blogging world, they have their start as a personal use of social media. So they personally used Pinterest, they personally used Facebook, they personally are using Instagram, and they're always looking at food. And they're like, you know what, I can do this, right? They get that mentality, they have that light switch moment, and they realize that they can do it. And because they are familiarized with Pinterest, with Facebook, with Instagram, that's where they start. SEO is many people didn't start in SEO. Like I have yet to meet a food blogger who said, actually, I started as an SEO and then I went to food blogging. Like it's like a unicorn. I don't see it. And so typically because of that, this is what social traffic provides. In order to be relevant in social, there's a constant need for you to consistently be publishing. You have to hit the publish button. You have to hit the share button. You have to hit the enter button to post your content. And so it is this giant roller coaster where you're constantly having to put out new content. That content is relevant for a day, maybe even a week, and then it goes back down, and then you have to do it again. And that's how your traffic comes. So majority of food bloggers who just start out, anywhere from 40 to 80% of their traffic is from social channels, right? And so the reason why SEO is important is because SEO, once you publish it and you can get high rankings, it's the gift that continuously gives. You wrote that post once, and then that post, because of the search volume associated with the keywords that are attracting or coming to that post, are now able to get you consistent page views. And so instead of having to post all the time, if you post and do your research really well and create a content that people love and Google loves, then you can see the residual effects of it compound month over month over month, as long as those rankings stay high. So also, the other area that I would emphasize is that as a man, I don't go on Pinterest. I don't even have a Pinterest account. I am not someone that is your target demographic, but I use Google probably 25 to 50 times a day. That's literally how often I'm picking up my phone and either checking my email, searching for something, or looking for something online. And so the demographic and the ocean that you can pull from is just bigger and deeper with SEO than it would be with Instagram, with Facebook, with Pinterest, because those areas are specifically targeted and have an audience, whereas Google has the biggest audience. Right? You're competing and you're showing your content to a worldwide demographic. Not to say that those other ones are not worldwide. It's just that they are segmented based off of the audience that uses it. So SEO is so important because it is the well that you can get the biggest return from, which is also why it's so competitive, right? So absolutely, Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram have huge amounts of people that use it. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm just saying Google is one that you cannot ignore. It is so big. It has so many users on a daily basis who are searching for everything. I think Google has actually made us as a society a little dumber, because we just feel like, you know what, like kids growing up, they are not going to know life without Google, right? And so they're just like, well, I'm just going to look it up. Why would I ever learn that, right? It's the same idea with cell phones, when you don't really memorize anybody's cell phone number anymore, because you just put it into your phone and then that's it. So if you didn't have your phone, like, what is my spouse's phone number? And I have to think about it for a second, right? That's like the only number that I now memorize. Where growing up, you had to memorize every number. And so anyways, that's why I feel like SEO is important, is because it's such a huge opportunity. It has the ability to continuously give you amazing traffic, and it has a huge network that transcends all of the social networks. So it's the combination of them all. So that's what I love about it.
Whether you're a seasoned podcaster or just thinking of starting a podcast, you need to listen to Buzzcast from the folks at Buzzsprout. Here we go! Buzzcast covers everything a podcaster should know, from marketing strategies and how to make money from your podcast to the latest and greatest tech and industry insights to keep you on the cutting edge. Follow Buzzcast by clicking the link in the description or go to buzzcast.buzzsprout.com and keep podcasting.
Yes. No, I love that. I think that part of what went through my head, especially when I first started blogging, like you said, the whole idea of Pinterest being like where I would go for content. And in my head, when you said, as a man, I'm not on there, and I would think, well, you're not really who I'm trying to attract anyways, so I'm good. Let me just stay on Pinterest. But knowing now that Google is pulling things from Pinterest and the keywords that I'm using are important for Pinterest as well, I think is just so valuable and so important to understand. I mean, there were times when I can remember my pin was outranking the post on Google. So the fact that it's actually pulling all of that information, like you said, it's a hub. It just encompasses everything.
You're exactly right. Google has such an ability to, one of the things that I find that's interesting is when I dive into bloggers, I look at their analytics, and it's interesting because most food bloggers think the exact same way, is that most of my demographic is going to be stay-at-home moms, right? Moms within a certain age group. And so in analytics, you can actually segment your data to find out what is the demographic of people who are just coming from organic traffic. So if I'm looking at my Pinterest traffic, who is my demographic there? What's interesting is that more and more male viewers are coming to blogs through SEO than any other channel. So if your male viewership is 15%, what I am finding in the people that I'm looking into is that it's normally double. So from SEO traffic, their overall all users might be 15% is male, but from SEO, the percentage that's male is 30. Right. And so most people are getting more and more male viewers from SEO than any other additional channel because they are absolutely coming. And so when I talk to the bloggers, like, yes, I'm getting comments from dads and from like, hey, I don't understand how to do this. And typically there comes it's funny that it's a kind of a laughing moment. They're like, well, hey, I had one blogger said, I don't know where my refrigerator is, right? Like, where do I find that? And so they're making comments and they're like, oh my goodness, why am I dealing? But you have to realize who's coming from search traffic compared to who's coming from other channels. And so it's really interesting when you start looking at the data to see, wow, I do have a lot of male viewers who are coming. So anyways, to that point.
Right. No, so important. So now if we were to look to improve SEO, what would be some of the first key steps? Now, obviously, I know we can't do it all right away, but what would be your first most important step to improve SEO?
Okay, so I thought through this. And so what I'm thinking three main areas. Okay, so the first thing that I would do is you first have to figure out who is your persona and who is your target audience. And the reason why this is so significant is that I have found and read content where I'm like, who are you trying to target here? Because there are probably, I read a statistic recently that there is a blog for every 9 people on this earth. A blog for every 9 people. That means that content is being produced at an alarming rate. Everyone is creating content. So if you want your or if you want traffic from the search engines, you have got to be niched down to a certain demographic. You cannot write to the masses. And one of the mistakes that I see is that I'm just writing for anyone that wants to come to this. So the biggest mistakes I find is that people have not figured out who their target demographic is, what their niche is. If your niche is 24 to 35-year-old women who have less than 2 kids and have a college degree and stay at home because their husband has a good job, but they have a young family and they have a family that has a son that has an allergy and another son who is very picky, that is information that you need to know before you write your content. And so if you don't know that information, if you're guessing, if you think, oh, well, most people are just coming to my site. Okay, well, I'm just going to write this to the masses. In 2020, if you want to have rankings in 2 and beyond, you have got to make sure that you are niched and that you are targeting a blue ocean, if you will. So you cannot just compete with the big people who are competing and making recipes for everyone. So first step, figure out your audience, figure out your persona. There are tools within analytics and analytics for each of the individual social and media networks that you can utilize to figure out who is coming to your site. Okay, step 2 is that you absolutely have to learn how to perform keyword research and figure out what searcher intent is. Okay, so when it comes to keyword research, what I have found is that when you do your research and you figure out what people want, the post writes itself. One of the misconceptions and mistakes that many food and content writers create and make for themselves is that they think they know what their readers want. Okay. So, and they make a lot of assumptions. Because many of you are experts and many of you have such a high level of understanding of the subject matter, you talk at a higher level. And so you talk to people who you think are going to be peers, whereas opposed to people who are coming from the search engines, they are beginners. They are people that don't understand things. So if you make a comment that you need to add the flour, but then I saw a post, it was about red velvet cupcakes. And in this post, the individual was mentioning that here's the amount of flour you need, here's the amount of milk you need, but you need to put in a third at a time, and then you need to mix it together. And then after that's done, then another third, and then mix it together. So yes, you put that in the content, but you have to make sure that people are going to have questions. So one of the ways that an experiment that I ask people to do is take somebody that has no idea how to cook, somebody that's not in the kitchen, put the ingredients to make a meal in front of them, and then put their blog post up on a laptop or iPad and let them literally read through the content and see if they can make that post without asking you a single question. I think it would be amazingly eye-opening for most content writers to see what questions that person has. If you ask them to cut up the vegetables, well, people don't know how to cut up the vegetables. If they knew how to make the dish, they're not Googling it, right? And so making sure that you're writing to the level of the person who is wanting to come to your content. So the only way you can do that is by performing keyword research and making sure that your searcher intent answers what their intent is. So don't make assumptions when you write, and make sure you write to that audience. And then the third thing that I would say is that perform research on who is actually ranking ahead of you. One of the misconceptions people have, and the idea within the food blogging world, is that if a top blogger does it, therefore I must do it. And that is a great opportunity and strategy for you to always rank number 2. Right? And that's not what you want. You want to be what your unique point of view is. Every single person has a unique upbringing, a unique story, a unique way of making recipes, which is why we have over 100,000 different chocolate chip cookie recipes. It's the exact same ingredients, but the method is different and the tricks are different. People are coming to you as an expert to learn those tricks, to learn what those different differentiation is. So if you need to absolutely know who is ranking ahead of you, not that so that you can copy them, but that you can make something better than what they've created. Google is going to give the number 1 listing to the person who provides the best content. So there's other factors, but that is absolutely an area of focus. So your job as a content writer, if you don't know who is ranking ahead of you and what their content is, how are you going to know what you need to write, right, in order to outrank them and to beat them? And so many people have the misconception that I know what my readers want. I'm the expert. Well, if you do and you perform research, you might realize that another person has an angle that you hadn't considered and that you need to address. And if you don't address it, then people are going to go to that competitor because they address it. And just if you perform your keyword research, if you perform your searcher intent, and you actually do your competitive research where you look at what your competitors are doing, if you do those 3 things, you're taking your opinion out of what you think you should be writing. And instead, you're writing a post that people who are searching for your content are wanting. And that is the secret when it comes to SEO, is that you actually have to provide people what they want and not think that you know what they need. It's a big misconception in business. It's a big misconception in SEO. You absolutely ask people what they want and then give it to them. It is very simple, but so many people confuse it with, well, they're going to need to know this. Well, they're going to need to know this. Well, this is a mistake I made. Well, absolutely, that might be a mistake you made, but that might be a mistake you made after you made it 5 times. What about the mistakes you made when you made it the first time? Because most of the people who come from search engines, they're going to be making this for the first time. So you have to take your mind away from the expert that you are and put it and remind yourself what it was like when you made a recipe for the very first time and realize I have to write to that person. Because those are the people who are coming from the search engines, the very beginners, the people like me. Like if I was asked to make, Thanksgiving is coming up, Christmas is coming up. If I was asked to make a dessert, You betcha. I'm going to Google and I'm saying, okay, okay, my assignment, right? That's how it would absolutely be given, is that I need to make, let's say, an apple pie. Okay, do I need to go buy the crust myself, or can I make the crust? Like all these questions start coming into my head. And so what people do is we've all been trained by Google to ask the specific question that we want answered. So if on an apple pie recipe, if you don't have the instructions on how to make the crust yourself and your competitor does, that's an area of emphasis that you need to absolutely know before you sit down and write your post. And like, okay, I need to write about the crust. I need to talk about how to make it, or I need to give alternatives of what is the best store-bought or brand of crust, because that's also an area like I'll just go to grocery store and which one did they? So then I'm going back to Google. What's the best brand of store-bought or store crust, right? So it's a journey. And so if you do not help, I call it a funnel. If you do not help that person throughout every aspect of that funnel, and you do not create content that answers that questions, your competitors are going to. And so you're going to be missing out because you thought that they already knew what crust. Right? A simple explanation, a simple, very simplistic example, but it highlights the point. Most people, and if I look at an apple pie recipe, they're wanting to know what apple is best, right? If you don't even mention it, you just say, cut up your apples, right? You're missing it. You're missing it. So again, you have to do your research. If you don't, you're writing your post blindly. And so many food bloggers write their post blindly based on their opinion. And that is a recipe, pun there, to not to rank in the first positions. And so, yeah, that would be the first steps I would take. Figure out your persona, figure out your target market, learn how to perform keyword research and search your intent, and then learn how to competitively look at your people who rank ahead of you and research them to see what angles that they provided that you will need to provide in a better way. And make sure you infuse your content with your unique point of view, your tips, the suggestions that grandma, that mom, the aunt, whoever taught you that recipe taught you. That's what people want. They want your expertise. And if you don't provide it to them in an easily digestible way that's written to their level, you're going to be missing the opportunity that you would have had to rank had you done that.
I love it. So I like to go back to keywords because I think you talked about we have a tendency of assuming that people are at the level that we're at. And it's embarrassing how long I thought that I understood keywords and I didn't. So I would love to kind of like give an example. That apple pie, is there a certain amount of maybe search volume, or what exactly would I be looking for when I choose my keywords for a recipe?
Absolutely. So some common myths that I want to bust is that many times people will absolutely want to try to rank for a term like apple pie. Okay. I will tell you that so many food bloggers don't have the clout, don't have what's called the authority to rank for that term. So this is how they optimize. I'm air quoting. This is how they optimize their posts. They call it apple pie recipe in the URL. The title of the post is apple pie recipe. And then they'll write content such as this. This apple pie recipe is one of the best recipes that my grandmother has taught me. This apple pie recipe is a favorite at my Thanksgiving or any meal that I take it to. Because this apple pie recipe, and they think that they're writing for SEO. So one of the things that you have to realize is that Google has gotten smart enough and they have realized something called semantic search. And basically what it means is that you can speak like a human being and not speak like a robot, and realize that keywords are not needing to just be put exactly like they used to be back in like 2012, 2013 timeframe. And that's how you used to write. But because people learn a little bit about SEO, learn a little bit about keywords, and then they think that's how they're supposed to write. So as far as keywords go, many times there's different levels of keywords. And what I mean by that is that there's different each keyword is given a search volume, meaning that on a monthly scale, how many times is that term searched in Google? So there are a variety of tools that can be used to research that information. So let's just throw out some fictitious numbers for this example. Let's just say apple pie recipe gets searched 30,000 times when it comes to every month, right? Which is the reason why SEO is important, because every month, 30,000 people are searching apple pie. So there are additional keywords that are also related. So examples would be apple pie recipe, or best apple pie recipe, or easy apple pie recipe. So what I like to explain is that apple pie are two words. That is essentially what I call a head term. Head terms are very competitive. They have a ton of volume, but they're extremely difficult to obtain. And so what happens, and the mistake that food bloggers make, is that they target a term that they cannot rank for yet. And so instead, you have to go after what I call long tail terms. So this would be an example, would be easy apple pie recipe. That's 4 words. That's what morally I would say long tail is 5 or more words. So the easiest apple pie recipe, right? So that's 5 words, the. So that would be an example of long tail. So one of the things that I teach is that you have to select, I like 4 to 6 keywords for every new blog post. I want 2 of them to be head terms. Okay, 2 of them to be mid-tier. Okay, so when I say mid-tier, I'm talking search volume and also length of keyword. And then also 2 to be long tail, that has very low search volume, but it's very specific. An example would be, how do I make an apple pie? Right, that's 6 words. But that word is going to be very less competitive than apple pie. And the reason why is because you're playing in different arenas. The example I like to give, I'm a sports guy, and so an example I like to give is in baseball. So if you are a baseball player, a high school baseball player, and you get drafted, you do not go immediately to the major leagues, which is the stadiums that we all go and see and watch. You go to what is called a farm system. So they have different levels of a farm system. So the lowest is single A. And these are minor league baseball teams. So for those that are in a small area, you typically have minor league baseball teams that you can go see, but they're an affiliate of one of the major teams. So you have single A, double A, and triple A, and then the major leagues. Well, apple pie recipe is a major league term, but the problem is you're in single A, because you are a blogger that doesn't have the clout, doesn't have the authority or the ability to target that term. And it doesn't mean that you will never have that ability. It just doesn't mean that you have the ability now. So the problem is, and the reason why people get somewhat frustrated around keyword research, and the reason why they think SEO doesn't work, and I hear this all the time, is because you're targeting the wrong term. It's like you're trying to compete in the Olympics when you haven't even won your YMCA league yet, right? So yeah, it's going to take so long for you to reach that opportunity. And so when it comes to keyword research, if you choose the wrong keywords, you write the wrong content. If you choose the wrong volume, or if you choose the bigness of the term, it's going to take too long. So it's a recipe for disaster. So you feel frustrated, you feel like SEO doesn't work, and you feel overwhelmingly like, why am I putting forth effort when I'm not seeing return? And I understand it. I get it. I was there. So one of the things I teach is that if you do that formula, when you hit publish, you are able to rank quicker for the long tail terms because they're less competitive and you've optimized properly for it. And then what I do, and that's why my shirt says level up, is you can level up for the mid-tier terms. You can go from single A to double A once you're ranking for single A. And then once you're ranking for double A, you can go to triple A. And then you can go to the major leagues and rank for apple pie. But coming out of the gate with a brand new post, unless your site is super authoritative, and unless you're already in that level, ranking for apple pie is going to be disastrous and you're going to get frustrated. So keywords, to answer your question, make Everything. Keyword research is the foundation to SEO. Keyword research determines what content you write, and it also determines what links you then attract. So those areas of keyword research, if done incorrectly, can completely set you up for failure. If you build that foundation on the wrong keywords, it absolutely can be detrimental to you to be successful.
So good. So I got to go back because I want to make sure I understand this. And I've never heard of it explained this way. And the whole sports analogy works for me. I don't know if it'll work for anyone else in my audience, but it totally works for me.
Cool.
When you are talking about creating that long tail keyword, does it work that over time, if I have a long tail keyword that how do I make apple pie?
Yep.
And I move from single A to double A.
Yep.
Just with that, can I then over time start ranking for that apple pie without changing anything SEO wise as far as like what I'm trying to? Yes.
To answer your question, the answer is yes. And the value here is that Google starts, so any post that you already currently have live, there's tools such as Google Search Console that will tell you the queries that people are coming to for that individual post. There are also paid tools like SEMrush and Ahrefs and others that will tell you this information, this data. So basically, once you starting to get authority, Google will start saying, oh, okay, how to make apple pie. People are really enjoying this. So what will happen is this is obviously relevant, how to apple pie recipe. Let's see how people respond if we share this result in that query. If people are getting the information that they want, then we're going to give more opportunity for this post to rank. So what happens is it's called a snowball effect. I call it the gift that keeps on giving. This is the value of SEO, is that all of a sudden you start bringing in more queries. I think my record is over 500 queries for one blog post. So just think about the amount of search volume for that 5,000. I'm sorry, not 500, 5,000. That's the record that I've seen so far. That 5,000 different queries, that 5,000 different combination of words, Google is sending to one post because it's such a relevant post and it's providing the answers that people want when it relates to that question. So 1,000%. And that's the beauty of the level up concept, is that once you start ranking for AAA terms, Google's like, well, I wonder if we are single A terms. I wonder if we send a AAA term here, if people respond the same way. And that's why you see people starting to rank for dessert recipes. And some of the biggest terms out there is because Google is finding that people are spending time on that site and they're getting the answer they want, which is Google's mission, to provide information, to give answers. And so absolutely, to your question, that's the ingenious of it, is that it can absolutely help benefit you in the long term to get rankings for terms that you were wanting to target, but it happens in a systematic way, as opposed to, well, I really hope that this apple pie recipe ranks for apple pie. And then a year later, it didn't work. Right. And that's the recipe for disaster. So the idea is that you're not having just 10 to 15 posts that are being able to bring you all your SEO traffic. So that way, if an algorithm does hit you, whatever posts were declining, you have other posts to help bring up that volume. So you're not having such a huge drop. But that's where every food blogger who is emailing me is at, because they're only getting SEO traffic from 10 to 15, but yet they have close to 800 to 1,000 recipes on their site. So that means that only 15 out of 1,000 are relevant for Google? No, that means that we have work to do when it comes to being able to optimize our content and get them ranking in Google.
Okay, I love that. So now here's one last question on keywords. You talked about having clout.
Yes.
Does it always make sense, no matter how large you are, to start with those long tail keywords? So if I'm seeing 300,000 page views and 70% is coming from Google right now, I have a decent amount of clout, right?
Absolutely.
So would it make sense for me to go for a long tail keyword like that that's going to really technically be single A, or can I start a little bit higher with a larger search volume?
I love it. So let me just share. So I've spoken at every single Everything Food conference. And one of the things that happens inevitably is after every single session, there's a line of people and they basically come up and they ask me questions. And so I'm curious, like having done this for 4 years now, the amount of questions that they ask are all the same. right? And so one of the things that I am on a mission on, it's the flag that I'm waving, is that you are asking the right question. It's not, how do I do keyword research? It's, wait, Ty, if the strategy is to do this, then that means what should I do in this situation? I love it when people start understanding and light bulbs go off and they're starting to ask different questions. And that's what I love. So to answer your question, so let's just say for a scenario that if you want to target a AAA term and you feel like you have that ability, the first thing that I would tell you is we have to figure out what's called your keyword level. Okay, so everybody has a keyword level, and there was a process that I introduced at EFC last year of how to figure this out. So essentially, I'll explain it. It's essentially you go to your Google Search Console and you look for a year's worth of data. You make sure the date range is pulling in a year. Then you click on your top 25, and you can even go to top 50 queries that bring in traffic to your website. Now, the thing that you have to remember here is that a query could bring in what's called an impression, meaning that let's say you rank for apple pie, but you're in position 10, right? There are studies that show that less than 2% of the people who Google apple pie are clicking on position 10, right? It's not going, I mean, even though you're getting tons of impressions, you're not getting tons of clicks. So you absolutely have to figure out where your positions are for those queries. So you got your top 25 queries that have brought in all of your SEO traffic. I'm also considering where your position is. I then take those top 25 and I put them in tools to give me search volume. That search volume, I then take away some outliers. So if you remember taking a statistics class in high school or college, you remember that you want to take away outliers and you want to make sure that you get a true average. That average is what I call your keyword level. And there's more to that, but I'm just giving you kind of an overview idea. That keyword level, I like to go 5,000 low and 5,000 above. And that's where I like you to operate in. So let's say you're telling me, if we figured out your keyword level and I say, okay, your keyword level, Jenny, for you would be, and these are all fictitious numbers. Let's say that your keyword level is 20,000 global monthly searches to 10,000 global monthly searches. And let's say you do keyword research and you realize that apple pie is 30. Does that mean that you cannot target 30? No, it absolutely does not mean that you can target. You can absolutely target 30. But I'm just telling you, let's stick to the range. And then as the range moves, you can start targeting 40 and 50 and 60. It's a step. And most people just want to go to the major league term. And if you follow the steps, you see success. And then you see that your authority, it's just getting the ball rolling. And once you get the ball rolling, things start working for you and the rules start to change. One of the complexities of SEO is that once you get clout, once you get authority, then the rules change. So if you remember back in like 2016, 2015, Wikipedia was like everywhere. Like you did a search and Wikipedia was number one. And it wasn't because Wikipedia wrote amazing content. They wrote information that gave people answers and they had a ton of authority. So the rules for Wikipedia are different than the rules for somebody trying to compete with Wikipedia because they have authority, right? It's the same idea that the major league players are playing on different rules than the AAA and the AA and the single A players because they've shown their ability to be relevant in the game. So absolutely, if you want to target, I would recommend that you absolutely target that head term, but you do have long tail because you don't have authority for that new post yet. Even though your site has authority, that post does not have authority. So one of the misconceptions that people think that Google only ranks the content from the biggest sites. No, Google ranks the best content no matter what site it's from, as long as it answers the query and as long as it has some type of authority. So there's 3 areas of SEO: technical, relevancy, and authority. So if you are not ranking, it's because one of those 3 areas are deficient and you need to figure out which one it is. So does your technical aspects of your site are not up to par with what Google wants? Or is your relevancy not where it needs? Or is your authority so lacking that doesn't matter what the other 2 are, your authority is so bad that Google's not looking at you yet? So those are the 3 areas of diagnostics and figuring out what to do. But anyways, to answer your question, yes, you can absolutely go after if you feel like you have clout. I would walk you through the process of figuring out your keyword level and then helping you make the decision based on that data.
So helpful. It's those light bulb moments that I think a lot of us have had to have, especially the dinosaurs that did this because we were just blogging for a hobby and we were just going to create whatever we made for dinner. And that's what we were going to blog about. So Ty, thank you so much. Do you have put together a freebie for my audience? Can you tell them a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that people frequently ask me for is a lot of people want to have the perfectly written SEO post. And so I have put together a checklist for you. So that way, when you write your content, you can go to the checklist and make sure that you check the boxes. People love checking boxes. People love seeing the green light in Yoast, right? And so everyone wants that feeling that I did everything I was supposed to do to make sure I set myself up for success. So the freebie that I have for the people that listen to you and people who are here is I put together that checklist. And so I will absolutely share that with you guys. And so, yeah, enjoy, and hopefully it's helpful for you.
Perfect. And that we are going to make sure that we link to in the show notes. So if you haven't already grabbed that, make sure that you hop over to the show notes and grab it. Ty, where else can people get in touch with you in case they have questions? I don't want to flood your inbox. Do you use Instagram or Facebook? What would be the best place?
Yeah. So my website is everythingdigitalmarketing.com, and I do have a Instagram handle. So it is at everythingdigitalmarketing. So you can absolutely reach out to me via Instagram. You can absolutely come and check out what I have available on Everything Digital Marketing. So those are basically the two ways. I do have Facebook as well. So if Messenger is your jam, you can absolutely look me up, Everything Digital Marketing. I have a page, and you can absolutely reach out to me one of those channels.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with my audience, to answer all my crazy questions. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jenny, for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Well, there you have it. Clearly, Ty knows what he's talking about from his past experience previously before starting to work with bloggers and help us figure out SEO, to now even being able to get into the thick of it, be able to take a back end look on many food blogger sites as well as other niche bloggers as well. So I hope that you have already grabbed the freebie that he is offering, the checklist. If you have not, make sure that you do. I also wanted to make you aware that Ty is one of the speakers for Influencer Entrepreneurs Academy. So if you are looking to take an even deeper dive, make sure that you have your ticket for IEA for the spring of 2020. All right, guys, I would love it if you would take a screenshot. You can tag me at Jenny_Melrose as well as Everything Digital Marketing, and let us know how you are listening to this episode. I'd love to see if you're out walking your dog or if you are going for a run, whatever it might be. Take a screenshot, let us know, and we will be sure to get back to you. We also love it when you guys make sure that you subscribe so that you can get all the latest episodes notified right away when they come in, as well as when you leave a review. We appreciate you all so much for taking the time to be a part of our community, and I look forward to seeing you until the next time.